Right, I'm gonna try and make this quick because it's 9:30 in the UK where I am right now as the time of recording this, and I want to go to sleep. By the way, if you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Alfie. I help work on some of the back end stuff for Just Dance EXE. So I work on stuff like the EXE uploader. I work on the EXE crew dashboard and also EXE bot, as well as helping develop the multiplayer side of EXE. You may know me better as Jobo on the server and on EXE. Um, and I'm just going to try and explain what's happened um, in the past couple days, hours, over the past however long it's been now. I've lost track of it because it took us all by shock. It took the whole crew by shock. Um, I'm not sure the exact date of when it happened, but earlier this week, if you tried to log on to Just Dance EXE, um, if you try to log on to and try and just play as normal, the game would just hang and freeze. And if you were on the login page, you would notice that when you clicked on your profile, it would show your data because that's cached locally, but the icons and whatnot, and like if it showed like if you were VIP or if you were help or if you were crew, that didn't show up at all. And in other words, um, the reason why the game was hanging was because the game talks with a server which just for demonstratory purposes I'm going to call the EXE server, and the EXE server hosts everything from user accounts to high scores for songs, song data, so like how many times it's been played and how many stars have been gained total, the song data for itself, which includes stuff like the name, the song code, video preview and audio preview cover art for the EXE downloader tool, and then also song packs and also seasons, as well as some banners. Um, and that just stopped working completely. And it wasn't because of some weird bug with our database system, because it's all running on just one software, and it's basically just the same as most standard SQL databases. But the reason it wasn't working was because I'm not sure if I can actually see. Like, I could probably try and log on to the database right now. Um, if I have the tool, where is it? It would be in. Yeah, if I try and log on to it using my GUI, I can probably try and see if it would load up. And if I click connect and try and connect to it now, see, it's not going to let me now when I want to do it. Um, but basically, what happened was it's trying to grab stuff from the database, which doesn't exist in terms. It's trying to look at a table which doesn't exist, and that's because someone somehow means gained access to the database, which we store everything on, and deleted it all. Deleted all the tables, wiped it clean, completely vanished. And at first, it took us a moment to realize, because at first we thought, oh, maybe it's just something with our host provider. Surely it will fix itself. But no, after we realized it wasn't a bug or something, um, I I was one of the first to get pinged um, when I saw screenshots of people saying that um, they couldn't log into their EXE accounts, and they thought maybe they'd been suspended, which isn't unusual because we have had that happen with users in the past where they've had their account suspended for whatever means. But I thought, that's weird, because it was one of our main modders who actually does a lot of the mods for EXE. So I went onto the tool which I created myself to have a look at the users table, and I tried to click login, and it said username or password not found. So I thought, that's weird. And then I got a ping from Mand saying, hold on, I could probably pull up the message, but basically it said, hey, I noticed a lot of changes in the database table. Was that you? And I thought, no, I haven't been doing any changes in the database table, because in fact I actually have my GCSEs at the moment. I'm just quickly recording this in my off time. So I thought, no, that's odd. And then I tried to log into the compass table as I did just now, and it was gone. Completely gone, completely wiped. And I said to Mand, do you have a backup? We didn't have a backup. And that was probably one of the first mistakes that we made as a team, is that we didn't have any plan for this was going to happen. We didn't have a plan for what would happen if the data was to get lost, because we'd already had a time previously where some songs, like the past couple, had got randomly removed, but we thought it was just a one-off. We didn't really have a plan for what would happen if the whole database were to get deleted, if it were to all go down at once. And because we didn't have a plan, we didn't have any organization of how are we going to back this up if something does go wrong. And that was the first mistake we made. So at first we thought, who's done this? And why? And of course, there's only a couple people, including myself, have full access credentials to the database. A couple of them being other members of the crew team, of the studio team. One of them being me. One of them being Wolf. So the first thing is to point at each other. Basically, it's like that Spider-Man meme. We all just pointed at each other because we all knew that one of us, because we assumed one of us has admin, one of us must have done it. One of us must have stabbed someone else in the back. We found out soon enough that that wasn't the case. When I record this, I mean about probably an hour ago, we probably found out that it wasn't one of us. Because after thinking, if it isn't one of us, because we were all saying no, it wasn't us, and no one believed each other. But we were all thinking, if it wasn't one of the crew, because why would we do that? Who else could it have been, and how? So I was thinking through. I was just sat thinking, how does the server, how does the database work? How does the algorithm, and how does the system for the database work, basically? And there are two pieces of user interaction when it comes to the database, and that is user accounts, and that is scores. There's also a third one which goes via the EXE uploader bot. However, that's hosted somewhere completely, and it's not open to the internet other than to two servers, one of them being our hosting, which is owned by me and is very securely, tightly worked, and the other being the database. But we're just ruling that out now, because we know it's not that, because I would have been the first one to know, because the bot would have crashed and I would have got about 1,000 pings, because I have logs set up and everything. So we could rule that out. And then we thought, user login and score updating. So if you create an account, it will create an entry in the table, or if you get a new high score, the server has to somehow tell the database, hey, this person's got a new high score, put them on the leaderboard. And we didn't have a system where it would ping to a server and then that server would talk to it. The app was just talking directly to the MongoDB server. And we were thinking, because here's the second mistake that happened in this whole thing, is that we didn't have multiple database user accounts. Basically, if you wanted to access, change, make edits to the database, it was all under the one account, which was the admin account. So it had full permissions. Obviously, there was the owner of the DB, but that's handled through Atlas, and that's completely separate because that has a user and password. This was basic password stuff. So everyone just had everyone just accessed it using the one admin account, and because that's all we had at the time. Even my bots and the crew dashboard that we use, that also access it through that one credential. And we are very careful when we store that, because we obviously, if that were to get leaked or put out into the public, it would be catastrophic. And we were thinking, how could it have got out there? And when we realized that the server has to somehow send the scores to it, we pretty quickly connected the dots that it was something to do with user clients. And I was probably one of the first ones to start investigating very intensely. I opened up Wireshark and I opened up the game and I started recording what it was sending over the port, which MongoDB uses more specifically to send requests and to and from over TCP. I then analyzed it, and it was talking directly to the server, which was the second big mistake. The third big mistake even is that there was no firewall, there was no proxy to stop clients talking directly to it. If this was completely secure and we didn't want this to happen again, we would have some sort of interface or infrastructure where you did not talk directly to the server, because talking directly to the server requires credentials. And if the user doesn't have it, then, or the user doesn't know it, but they can still talk to it to update stuff like profile pictures and whatnot, then they must be stored somewhere in the code. That was the fourth big mistake, is that even though we didn't think people would find them, or this person would find them, we did know it was sort of an issue, but we didn't think that people would actually go looking for it, and that people would actually discover it and use it like this. While we're not going to disclose what bit of the code it was in, or what file, whatever it was stored in, because we don't want a similar thing to happen like that again. We do know where it is, because I actually spent about 30 minutes going through the file codes and looking through DLLs, decoding, deobfuscating it through .NET, and eventually I did find it in one of the files, and it was just the full uncensored thing, just the full admin password, everything, just freely there. And even if we were to leave that there, what we should have done at least at least was make it less over permissive. We should have at least not made it the user account, the admin account. We should have at least made it some sort of, this is a score user account. All it can do is insert into the table, change from this specific table. We shouldn't have had it, or we shouldn't have let it be able to edit, delete, drop every table, drop every database. We shouldn't have let it done that, or we should have just not included it at all. And I guess that's where the blame falls on us, or where we, what we did wrong, if you could call it that. And we're sorry, because there was so much engagement with the community from this game, so many hours, so many different scores, so many stars, so many plays racked up, so many different mods created. By the way, I should come to talk about mods. The mod files for all of the mods that are created are stored separately. They are not affected by this. They are not affected. So they are fine. Everything else in the database is gone. And all of the hours of user accounts created, all of the hours of carefully inputted song information and scores is all been gone, and it's all because of one silly mistake that anyone can make. If anything, it's a bit like what Tom Scott calls the oh no second. The moment you realise after you've sent the wrong email to the wrong person, you clicked the wrong link, or you typed in the wrong command, or you left the wrong piece of code in, or you didn't think, wait, maybe we should not include that in. But it's an easy mistake, and I'm not putting anyone at blame here, because to be frankly honest, if this was me developing the game, which it's not, by the way, I'm not nearly tech savvy enough to do that, especially in Unity, which it is a great game and greatly coded. If this was me coding it, I probably would have made the same mistake, and probably everyone else who tries to make the game like this with the database probably would have made the same mistake. Even Ubisoft, when they were creating Just Dance Unlimited and Wild Dance 4, they probably made some similar mistake where they left the wrong piece of code in originally, and it's an easy mistake to make. But we find it either earlier or later. This case later, and we learn from it. So I guess that takes me on to the second part of this video, which is what we're going to do about this. So we know what happened. We know how it happened. We don't know who did it though, because it was just one admin account. I mean, I'm sure we could find out by looking at the MongoDB Atlas logs to see what IP accessed the account from where. However, we probably wouldn't get far. We could probably quite easily draw up a chart and figure out who did it, but we're not going to talk about that. That's something more private for the rest of the studio crew to talk about. But what I am going to talk about here is what we're going to do going forwards. So the first thing is we're going to have the system coded completely differently. And when I mean in terms of system coded completely differently, when scores are sent, they are not going to be sent directly to the server. They are going to be sent to some sort of server, which then sends it to the database, because we do not want the same thing happening again. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to tighten up our security. In terms of database, we're going to have multiple accounts. We're going to make accounts less permissive. We're going to only let them need the permissions they need. And third of all, we're going to rewrite the code that talks to the server, because it is just too risky. We don't know how long this is going to take, because as I said, I am a GCSE student in the UK. I have still got my GCSEs up until the 15th of May. Wish me luck. And Wolf is, some of you will probably have seen in his Discord server announcements, he's an app tester now. He has got a job. He actually has a life like most of the rest of us. So he is going to be busy, and making these fixes is not going to be a quick copy paste it and then publish the rest. It is going to take a while to fix everything and work out new stuff. There's going to be loads of messages, loads of updates. I'm sure, um, but we don't really have an estimate for how long it's going to take. Because these things, you can't really put a time on them at the moment because it's literally just happened. However, here is one guarantee I will make from the team, is that when we are making changes, we will let you, the viewers, the players, the testers, know. Either whether that be through videos like this to you guys, through Discord server messages, or by simply updating jdexc.xyz, which has currently got a status page where you can find out all the latest info. You guys will always be kept up to speed because we don't want to leave you in the dark and then let this community die out, because it's a great community and we love you guys. Obviously, because the game is not working at the moment, because you can't actually play games, because if you try to enter the game, it tries to ping to a table which doesn't exist and the game just hangs. So it's what I would say unplayable in its current state. So what we've done is we disabled the links to download the game, both on my mirrors on my site, but also on the official links if you've circulated the links bell. So if you try to download the game using links in man's description by clicking the download link, they won't work for now. They will come back eventually once we publish the next big release of JDEXE. However, I guess that's all that I can say right now, because that's all the information I have. That's all the things I know, all the things I can guarantee to you without digging my head too far into a hole I won't be able to get out of. But all I can say is stay with us. Keep making maps, keep playing, and we'll keep you updated, obviously, as things happen, as updates are made, what's happening, because we don't want to let this die out. It may be a while before this comes back. It may be a couple months. It may be a couple weeks. It might be tomorrow that it comes back. It might be next year that it comes back. But we will come back and we will bring it back and make it better and make this game something that Ubisoft couldn't. But yeah, that's all really I have to say. And also, thank you for all of you. Thank you for being so supportive of this game, because the rest of the team, to Wolf, to rest of the mod makers, to everyone who makes this game so enjoyable, thank you to all of you as well, because you guys make this such a fun project to work on, because this is something, we don't do this as a business, this is something we work on in our free time. And we appreciate that you appreciate our hard work. So yeah, we'll post further updates in the Discord and on the site once we know new information. By the way, join the Discord. There's a link to it on the jdexc.xyz site, which I will link in the description, where you can talk with some of us. You can talk with Wolf, you can talk with the rest of us, and also check out what's happening. Otherwise, yeah, we'll keep you updated. Thanks for the patience. And yeah, until next time, keep dancing. See ya.